Good evening and welcome to the Clinton Candidates Night for School Committee, sponsored by the Item newspaper. I'm your moderator, Gary Hutner, publisher of the Item. Before we get started with our forum, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. The Clinton Town Meeting is Monday, June 6th, with a special town meeting at 7 o'clock, the annual town meeting starting at 7:15. There is a debt exclusion for Savage Field on the warrant, $544,258 for Phase 1 of the renovation project. For it to pass, it must be okayed at both the town meeting and the election. There is also a citizen's petition calling for an underride of $1 million from the school budget. That is not currently on an election ballot, but could be added if voters approve the question at the town meeting. Now on to the forum. We have our three candidates for school committee with us: Gordon Graham, Jennifer Scalise, and Michael McIntyre. I'll explain how the format will work, and then we'll just jump right in. We will have 2-minute opening statements from each person, starting with Gordon, then we'll go alphabetically, then the questions will go alphabetically, one at a time. You'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Then we'll end the forum with 2-minute closing statements. Ken Cleveland is doing the timing. He'll hold up a yield sign when you have 30 seconds left in your statement, and then he'll hold up a stop sign when you're out of time. It's a good idea to look up every once in a while. You know, we tend to read our answers sometimes and just keep going. So it's good to look up every once in a while. If you go past your stop sign, then you'll see me and Ken waving crazily. So I want to thank CHS students for filming this, Jacob, who is doing this for us. This will be on YouTube, and it will also there'll be a link from the Item website, which is clintonitem.com, and I think they're hoping to have that up tomorrow, though if you're watching this, it'll be when you're watching it, not tomorrow. So why don't we get into our opening statements? We'll start with Gordon Graham.
Good evening. It's delightful to be here tonight. I want to explain this is the time of year in Clinton when I have people worked in the mills that they took time off and went to the Riviera of Hampton Beach or someplace like that. And it's got to be 75 years ago that with my cousins at Hampton Beach, I got lost as a 5-year-old. And I went up to a couple of women and said, "I am George Gordon Graham, 40 East Street, Clinton, Massachusetts." And that identified me and set my identity early, where being from Clinton, Massachusetts was a wonderful honor, and an honor that requires a commitment to help those who are less fortunate. I was a product of the Clinton Public Schools. My parents both worked. I was a latchkey kid who made his own lunch, went to a little four classroom school down near what's now the recreation department down at Fuller's Field. And I loved education. It took on me, and I have been in education now for what has to be more than 78 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. McIntyre.
Well, thank you everybody for those of you that are here tonight. If you can't tell on camera, it's a large crowd. But I would like to start off by, introducing myself. I'm from Milford, Massachusetts, born and raised. And when I got married to Christine Morales, we decided to move to Clinton, and she has a very large family that's from Clinton, and right away I was able to be welcomed into the Clinton community and all the great tradition that entails with Clinton. A little bit about my education. I went to Norwich University for my undergrad. For my master's in organizational management of education, I received that from Endicott. And for my CAGS in special education leadership, I received that from Cambridge College. I've had a lot of different responsibilities in education, and some that I'm most proud of is my job as a coach for Special Olympics. but I also coached 3 different varsity teams. I've been a teacher, a technology teacher, a class advisor. I've also been a vice principal for 6 years, and then also a director of student services for the charter school over at AMSA. And then recently, I'm the adjunct coordinator for Wellesley Public Schools. The licenses that I hold as an educator are from superintendent, special education director, K through 12, and I hold all levels of principalship licensure, K through 12 as well. My goals going into running for school committee, number 1 was focusing on bullying, because the biggest thing for me is for students to feel safe in their school setting. In order for them to feel safe, it allows them to be able to learn. If they're not feeling safe, we're not going to get a lot of information into them, and they're not going to have a lot of success. But I was very pleased to see through the different school council plans that the 3 different levels are making great success and great strides as far as what they're doing to develop the bullying policy that has taken place here in Clinton. The other area of big focus is on school choice. Right now, we have, unfortunately, more students. Okay, I have the 2-minute to wrap up, but hopefully through the questions, I'll be able to get into
And you'll
more
get
of my
2 minutes at
background.
the end as well.
All
so
right, great.
after that.
Make sure I'm shorter next time.
Yeah. Okay. And our third candidate, Jennifer Scalise.
Yes, I'm Jennifer Scalise. I believe in our town. I believe in the Clinton Public Schools. I'm a product of a public school education. I have a bachelor's degree in legal studies and political science with a minor in communications and a law degree. And I think my experience working in compliance and policy, really policy specialist, really brings me to the interest of potentially running for town offices, which is why I'm here. It's no secret that I was in favor of the override. In fact, I led the override effort in this town because I truly believe that a school system is at the heart of a community. And I put myself out there, I spoke up, and I helped create history in this town, and I'm very, very proud of that. And that was really the main reason why I'm sitting here today. That, and I have 3 children. I have a first grader at the Clinton Elementary School, I have a preschooler at the Clinton High School, and I have an infant that was in fact born on the side of the road. That was me in January. But I think really one big reason I want to sit here and I want to use this forum is that there is an override vote going on at town meeting, and I really encourage you that to target the public schools for a $1 million underride is unfair, and it's not fiscally responsible. And I think that if you, hopefully through the questions today, I'll be able to exactly articulate to you why. And at the end of the day, you know, I think any of the 3 of us can show that we care, and we look forward to your vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the first question, we'll start with Mr. McIntyre. What do you see as the role of the school committee, and how would you balance the responsibility of providing what is best for students with the fiscal responsibility to the voters?
So there's a lot of areas that you get involved in with school committee, but there's 3 key areas that I look at as the responsibility for the school committee, and that is the hiring of the superintendent, the budget in itself, and then the policies and regulations. And within those areas, there's a lot of different things that you have to oversee and you have to implement from doing that. As far as balancing with the budget, every single thing that is a line item, you need to take in consideration of the students, because those are our customers, those are what we're here for, and that is the future of the town of Clinton, and that's the future of our society. So every single move that we make financially, we have to take in consideration of the students. And if there's something that's going to need to be cut, we need to make sure that it's not at the sacrifice of our students. And those are the things that we need to balance. And when we take a look at our budgets and making sure that we're balancing our budgets, we need to make sure that we're transparent. And in these tough times, in order to be transparent, we need to make sure that we're giving a justification for every line item that we have that has to have an increase, or even a justification for items that have been there for a while, so that the community understands the reason why that's there and the benefit of what that's going to be taking place.
Thank you very much. Ms. Scalise.
So I would say that Mr. McIntyre hit on the head the 3 items, right? So you have policy development, and you have the compliance with the laws and regulations of the state. So there's that, and I think especially with hot button, with the Common Core curriculum potentially coming up for ballot question in November, I think it's really a great time to be part of the school committee. Secondly, we have the hiring of the superintendent. This is a prime time again for change in our public school education. I think any three of us are recognizing that that role of the school committee is really essential. And third, you've got things like policy development, budget. Our budget for the school department hasn't been this transparent in a very long time. Line by line, you can see exactly what things are costing and exactly what we're budgeting for, and I think that's a really great thing. The business manager in particular has done an incredible job, I think, so far. The one thing I would add on top of that is that, you know, those of us on here, especially parents, parent advocates, I think are a huge voice for our schools. I think that we can really afford to, you know, have more, you know, talk to your teachers, talk to your kids, work with them in terms of that level, I think, of you know, of skill set that I think we can bring forward. And I think when you add all that together and then you add some of the hot button things that are going on, bullying and sort of those other things going on that are popular, I think that would really be the reason that school committee can really sort of make some change in leadership in this town, and I think that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Graham.
Yes. I would add to what has been said about the hiring of a superintendent. I served 11 years on the school committee in the 70s and 80s and saw the process go through for hiring a new superintendent. I was among those who voted for Terry Ungano, both as a teacher and then as a superintendent of schools. The process is always a little beyond public view. What is always done is standards and requirements for an ideal superintendent is published, is circulated around the state, but there's always someone within the community who has a inside track who may or may not have the same qualifications. But one has to be on guard that a common denominator of what makes for a good superintendent is looked at frankly and honestly, and people show their hands as to what they think the priorities should be. As you probably know, I have dual citizenship. Not only did I have 3 kids go through the school system here, all of whom went to great achievement in universities and the Army. I brought over 11 youngsters from Ireland, North and South, Catholic and Protestant, and put them into school here and got their review. I followed those kids up, gone to their weddings, saw that they graduated from schools such as Oxford and Mayo and places like that around Ireland. And they all look back on the experience here in Clinton as strong support for their life and their attitude towards life.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Graham actually hit on what would be our next question, and that will start with you, Mrs. Scalise. It's quite likely the person elected to the school committee this year will be involved in the search for the next superintendent once Terry Ungano retires. What would you be looking for in the next superintendent?
Funny you ask. I'm prepared for that question. A clear vision for the district. I think there needs to be vision, goals, objectives, and trackable progress toward all that. An instructional leader. You need to make sure the district is focused on making sure students are learning and achieving at high levels, knowledgeable about best practices for maximizing student achievement, and supportive of teachers in the district. An effective communicator. You need to be sure there's frequent communications on the needs and accomplishments of the district in a variety of formats, including the public meetings, attendance at school events, written reports, and communications with media. A good manager, direct administrators to accomplish the goals of the district and monitor progress and evaluate performance. A good listener needs to be sure to listen and take into account differing viewpoints of various constituents and make informed decisions. Unafraid to take risks and commit, to set bold goals and put in place programs and resources to achieve those goals. Flexible, manage the politics of the job, adapt to new school committee members, changes in funding, changes in the school community, etc., without sacrificing the vision of the district. A collaborative approach. And perhaps what's different about a superintendent is that this individual is not only accountable to the employees, but children, parents, educators, community as a whole. And it's incredibly important to find someone with the compassion and passion to understand the needs of various parts that make this school work as a whole. So that's really what I'd be looking for.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Graham.
Yeah, I would add at this point that whereas money is certainly needed, a more creative search for sources of money has always been my concern here. I'm on the Clinton Cultural Committee for the last 3 years, and that is money that comes straight from the state to be dispensed with the needs of education and recreational programs for Clinton. And we have found, for instance, that the music program is badly underfunded, as commonly happens. And we gave money so that the drums of the African Museum could be entered into the musical musical program of the high school. And for the lower grades, we had transportation to get kids out of town to go to music fests and things like this, which has resulted in an excellent band over the last few years.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McIntyre, the question being, what are you looking for in the next superintendent?
So the next superintendent needs to be somebody with passion. It needs to be somebody that when they come in the room, they can get the attention and respect of the people in the room, because that individual is going to be leading this school, and it's going to be leading this school system to the next 21st century skills that we need our students to have and to be able to acquire. And they need to be able to at times step into many areas. You know, for example, they need to understand curriculum, they need to understand educational law, they need to understand the policies and regulations, and then they also need to be innovative to be able to help our teachers and educators to be able to stay cutting edge. Because in a school system like Clinton, we do not have a lot of money as far as professional development as much as we would like. So we need this individual to be able to bring that into the school system at an affordable price so that our teachers understand as far as what's happening, what's going to be happening, and they stay ahead of the curve. For example, the 4th grade teacher who went to Finland on her own time, took a look at 10 to 20 different schools in Finland, saw what was happening there that was innovative, what she liked there, what we could take away from there, and to bring back to the Clinton school system. That's the type of superintendent that I'm looking for, somebody with that same kind of drive, and that drive that the teachers would respect and they would catch on to it and they want it for themselves as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Graham, we'll start with you on this question. There's been a lot of discussion about marketing Clinton schools to residents who would otherwise choose school choice, vocational, or charter schools. There is also an opportunity to bring students into the district through school choice. What do you see as the strengths of the district, and how would you spread that word about the strengths?
I happened to be present, I guess a little more than a year ago, when the high school principal, the staff, and the superintendent attended a Spanish-speaking church at Central Park, where the program of the South Lancaster school system was highly praised and compared with the Clinton school system. I think it was just wonderful as I observed it, that the issues were joined, the strong points of their school system in South Lancaster and those of the Clinton school system was preeminent. I live in Oxford Court, where I used to have my law office, and every morning I live there because I love the idea of having a swimming pool that I swim in every morning. But as I get on the elevator, there are parents of small children who are being taken over to the elementary school across the street. And I say, most of them speak a language other than English. When I sort of laughingly said to one of them, I hope you understand the Spanish to the other kids, they said, our language is Egyptian. And it was a wonderful feeling. This whole nation is in the process. I played a part in the army of screening refugees from Hungary that came over to the United States. We're having a new reconfiguration of the ethnic composition of America. And I am delighted that Clinton is ahead of the curve on this. And these people need a spokesperson, and I would be that kind of person.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McIntyre, the question was, there's been a discussion about marketing Clinton schools to residents who would otherwise choose school choice. How would you best spread the word about the district's strengths?
I would go to the students, and I would talk with the students and find out what makes them excited, what makes them want to come to school every day. And that's what I would drive home, because the most honest person that we could get the most honest information from is our students. So those are the ones that I would put on the front line that are willing to help out, and I would have them market that message. I would have them take advantage of the different programs that we have here as far as video production and other things for those resources, which we already are doing so, and to highlight, you know, the community, highlight the 3 levels, the elementary, the middle school, and the high school, highlight the fact that we have a fantastic preschool program, a full-day kindergarten program, and then highlight on the new initiatives that are coming out as far as the STEAM program, as far as the 8th graders going to be up working with the high school students for a few of their classes next year. So those are the things that I would highlight on, but I would bring that from the voice of the students because they have the most powerful voice.
Thank you very much. Ms. Scalise.
I would add to that, I mean, I think the strength of the Clinton Public Schools are obviously the kids, but the educators, the parents, and our diversity as a community. I love this town. I love being an active citizen in this town. And I think that we can add the skills of our parents and our teachers into sort of what kind of marketing brand we want to create for the public schools. We want these children and these families to choose Clinton. And I think that's the message we want to get across when we're thinking about marketing from a school choice perspective. You know, we need to invest time to educate all of our constituents really on public relations and marketing, what that looks like. These kids that might speak up and be the voice of public schools, they need to know how to speak in terms of public relations and marketing and the media, et cetera. We need to figure out what is our tagline, what is so special about Clinton. I can think of 100 things that are special, but what do we want to hone in on as a district? And I think at the end of the day, let's do a value of grassroots campaign and one-to-one marketing. Let's get these kids to choose Clinton, these parents to choose Clinton public schools, and that would be my message.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, this next question, we're going to start with Mr. McIntyre. Let's take the flip side of that question. What are the shortcomings in the Clinton school system, and what would you put as your priorities to try and to address those shortcomings?
So the area where I feel as though we could use work is universal design learning, and what that is an approach that teaches students at their area of strength. So it's a delivery of multiple methods of approach, and I would put that in place, and where I would start would be in the 4th grade. And the reason why I would start there is the community has spoken out about their concerns of the middle school, and the 4th graders are entering into our middle school, and I would start with the foundation there. And I would build the building blocks with our 4th grade students, and I would carry that through from 4th grade to 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade. And then as that was developed, then we would have the high school benefiting and reaping the rewards of the style of learning and the different approaches that is being delivered to those students and the foundations that is available to them. The other thing that we need to look into is individual learning plans for students. That's where the future is going. That is where we're going to be mandated to go. And I think that instead of being told when we have to do it, like we have been told in some other initiatives, that we're one of the first in the state to implement those plans. So every student that goes to Clinton Public Schools, all of their teachers would know who they are from their perspective, from the parents' perspective, and potentially their former teacher's perspective. So those are the 2 areas that I would focus on.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Scalise.
I think from my perspective, I'd like to keep and expand subjects that provide students with a well-rounded education from the beginning. So things like, you know, I realize that the curriculum and potentially, you know, what people could consider barriers to the curriculum are something that people might think is a negative. And I think we were talking a little bit about the state and where the state is going with regard to the Common Core curriculum and what that looks like. But I really would like to see more project-based and cooperative learning, really like civics projects and things like that that really get the students out into the community. The community is going to see more of the value of our students and that population. I'd really like to see more community partners inside the classroom. and even more parent involvement. We have a great volunteer program, a great PTA, but I'd love to see our parents with their professional lives be brought into the classroom. I mean, I would teach an introduction to the law course. I think that would be a value for our high school students, and I'd be happy to do that for nothing. And I think we have a lot of parents that have skills outside of being a parent to students and outside of sending their kids on the school bus. Let's take that and make that an opportunity. And I really would like to see, as a parent, a more well-rounded education for my kids. I want to see science earlier. I want to see more arts. I want to see more drama. I want to see things that can be expanding beyond sort of the four corners of a textbook, from my perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Graham.
Yeah, one of the first experiences I had in education was when I was in Washington going to law school. The Opus Dei Catholic organization had a program calling Upward Bound. And what was desired to do was to have kids from the schools, from particularly inner city schools, work in the offices or in the clinics where members of the community who were in responsible positions, have them shadow them and have a sense of what might be available if they got the right training and experience in it. And it got them out of the sense, we actually had kids who lived probably 4 blocks from the Smithsonian Institutes and all the various great museums there, but had never been the 2 blocks down to the mall where these great research museums and galleries were, and it was an enriching experience for these kids. And indeed, we did get some considerably good candidates for Harvard University, my alma mater.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start, the next question will be with you, Ms. Scalise. Last year, voters approved the Proposition 2.5 override, which included $1 million for the schools. This year, there is a citizens petition looking to reverse the school money through an underride. Did you favor the override last year? And what is your feeling on this year's underride?
Well, I can say that I did favor the override last year. I think it's no secret. I led the ballot question committee to create history in this town. I'm very proud of that effort on behalf of the team of individuals that we had together. Very passionate parents and educators. It was, I think, one of my proudest moments as an adult in this town. I think that this, also, let's talk about the benefits of the override. There's been a lot of misconception that all the benefits of the override went to raises for teachers. That is not what happened. It created world language classes, social studies, more special ed teachers that were necessary. These are teacher salaries, some technology. There's a bunch, and it also defrayed the cost of transportation in this town. I mean, there's a bunch of great things that this override did. And this override wasn't something to just throw money at the school district. It was helping to fix a problem that had been happening for years from a funding perspective in this town. So yes, I was in favor of the override. Yes, I'm still in favor of the override. I would stand on a table to be in favor of the override. I think an underride is an incredibly sad thing to occur to this public school system. I think you can equate it like taking teachers away from children. Why would anybody ever want to do that? Not to mention the fact that if you take $1 million out of the budget of the town, you might as well take money away from your fire department and your police department and all those other services of this town. I think lowering the tax levy is the most fiscally irresponsible thing you could do for this town.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Graham.
I have a sense we're in a time in America generally, and Clinton isn't excluded from that, where government is suspect, where people who are in stagnant jobs with little chance for increasing their own income are really concerned about whether they can afford to pay any additional taxes. And I'm afraid to see it get into an adversarial argument. I was here on the school committee when we did the huge undertaking of building a new high school and a new middle school. And I watched when we had the special Saturday town meetings, people come in who voted just negatively. There has to be more ongoing communication and a setting of priorities. of any agency, including schools, which are important to our lifeblood. But I would try to stay away. I've talked to people on the school committee, and I've talked to people on the finance committee, and there is a common concern, but a lack of real good communication between them. I think Jen is taking a superb leadership in being open and frank about what she thinks the priorities should be. But I would, on the committee, would be waiting and listening carefully before I committed myself.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre.
So I want to pick up where you just left off with your point. I was for the override last year, and I'm against the underride this year. But the biggest thing is we need to listen, and we need to understand why the citizens who are against the override from last year and why they're so passionate about our underride, what is causing that? What communication breakdown is causing that? What do we think that we're receiving as far as a school budget that requires for us to cut it by $1 million? What are the areas of frustration for them? And to have open dialogue and have open conversations so that we can address those concerns or be transparent about those concerns like the superintendent and the school committee have been doing for the last couple of months. I've been fortunate enough to go to those meetings, been fortunate enough to ask questions, have them answered, and the transparency has been fantastic. And the knowledge that I received from going to those meetings allowed me to answer a lot of questions that I did not have prior to going to those meetings. And I think that's an area where marketing would help to support the school system to let them show what they're trying to do. Because right now, I think it's a miscommunication that's causing the field to think that this district has too much money. Because right now, our pupil expenditure cost is about $2,000 less than what the state average is. The state average is just shy of 15,000, and we're just shy of 13,000. And that's something that we need to really pay attention to, because if we're not going to be putting the same money in that what the state averages into our students, then we're not going to have the same success, and that's going to impact our community, and it's going to impact our students, and it's going to be lifelong impacts. And those are things that I can't support, and that's why I don't support the underwrite.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're gonna have one more question, and then we'll hit closing statements. So I'm letting you know that we're getting close to being done here. So this question is gonna start with Mr. Graham. When budgets get tight, it often seems like the non-core subjects, like music and art, are the ones that get cut. If elected, what would you try to bring back to the schools in terms of non-core subjects, and how would you find the money to pay for those?
I've already touched on that, Gary, with the Clinton Cultural Committee. We have somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000, where the common place we fund things in the town is within the school system, both with the lending of the icons from the Icon Museum or the music program from the African Museum, and that doesn't get, it's money that's sent to us as if anything is sent from heaven. It's sent from Boston, and we need to give more serious thought to it. The library is really expanded its program by taking funds like that for lectures. I happen to be one of the lecturers on the Irish influence on Clinton. But we had packed houses of adult education, which should be separated out for a young person and a school student in elementary schools, get a sense of the richness of culture, which is stymied by limits of the proper funding within the school system itself.
Mr. McIntyre.
So the way I would look into what I would bring here if we were looking for non-core classes, I would focus that with communication with the guidance department. Because every year, the guidance department works with our students as far as picking classes, seeing what the students' interests are. So I would start with what the students' interests are, then I would align that with the colleges and the tech programs to see what the future demands are. And that's how I would develop our next non-core class. The areas of how I would fund that would be through grants. And one key grant that we're not currently have in place here at Clinton, which we are eligible to have here at Clinton, is the Perkins Grant. And the Perkins Grant is growing on a regular basis. Last year, communities that do receive the Perkins Grant received a 100% increase in the amount of money from the Perkins Grant. And so that would be the area of focus that I would put into that. And the current non-core classes that are in place today could be at least partially funded by that money.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Scalise.
I think from my perspective, I get nervous about, I think grant runnings are a great thing, but when you fund a course, then you look at potentially losing that funding going forward, even though there is a guarantee or whatever. So I think from my perspective, I look into a course that's gonna add some value to the community, and then that would bring, I think the investment and the agreement to that beyond the district. So things like civics courses. I was involved with a class like that back when I was in high school, and every student was required to do some kind of a civics program, and that brought fundraising efforts, but it also brought just the ability of the community to embrace the students. And then that became, okay, well, now we're gonna support your community events or your athletic, you know, if we're doing the big athletic, I know we have a warrant article for a long jump so that we can host athletic events. That could bring money back to the district. What is a way that we can look into being more involved in the community, I think, and doing that? But I think if I had my choice at a menu list of things to bring back, it's anything in the arts, it's anything in science early and often, and it's anything in the sort of the STEM and technology field. So that's where I'd be looking.
Okay, thank you
Can't
very much.
speak today either.
Thank you all for answering our questions, and we'll now give you 2 minutes each to give us closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. McIntyre.
Okay, so I'm going to keep it very short and to the point, and I feel as though I'm the most highly qualified individual to be the next member of the school committee, and I respect the 2 individuals that I'm up here with today, but I feel as though with my background in education, I feel as though I have the necessary skill set to get off and running in order to be a school committee member right away and have an understanding and to help to bring success right away to the community of Clinton and to the school system. Other than that, I would like to thank my family and my friends for the fantastic support that I've received. I'm new to the community. I've only been to the community for 5 years, and the overwhelming support that I've received during this election is amazing to me. And I just want to thank everybody and appreciate your support. And if I'm chosen to be the next member of the school committee, I'll work very, very hard to make you proud. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Scalise.
I think for me, and I'm going to echo what Mr. McIntyre said. I've told him on a number of occasions, I really respect you and I really respect your background. And Mr. Graham, it's a pleasure getting to know you, and I wish you both the best of luck. I think no matter who you're going to choose up here, you're going to choose somebody with passion, and I think somebody that cares about the district, and I think that's great. I think for myself, I want to add value to our school committee as a passionate voice for parents, for our educators, our community, and especially our kids. I think I'm sitting here today because of my 3 kids, so I think from my perspective, this is where I thought I could add the most amount of value, and that's why I'm sitting here today. I think at the end of the day, appropriately funding our schools and ensuring that Clinton Public Schools are at the heart of this community is essential to whoever is going to be sitting at this table. And I think at the end of the day, I think I am a really good choice. I think I've stood up, I've been unafraid, I put myself out there, and I really would love if this town would put their faith in me for the next member of our school committee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Graham.
Yes. As I watch Michael and Jen, I say this community is going to be well served if any of us is elected to the committee. I've had the wonderful experience in the last week of calling members of the Clinton High School class of 1951, who's going to be celebrating its 65th reunion, and talking to these people, one of whom was designated as a scientist as a point for the Nobel Prize in Medicine for being in the top group of scientists out in Washington University, St. Louis. And of course, the star of our class was Sidney Schamberg, who got the Pulitzer Prize with the New York Times. A terrible roommate in college, but a wonderfully accomplished guy. And we can look back, most of us had parents. My parents had 3 years of education each in Ireland. Many came from families that spoke languages other than English at home. And we had a spirit and an encouragement from a whole community to accomplish things and to pay back to the community the great debt we owe for a wonderful town by a dam site.
Thank you very much. I have some thank yous myself. First, I want to thank our three candidates. If we can give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. I want to thank Clinton High School and Principal Jim Hastings for allowing us to use the facility tonight. I want to thank Paul Morrison and Jacob who taped the broadcast that will be on YouTube. I want to remind everybody about the town meeting on Monday, June 6th, and then the election on Monday, June 13th. I want to thank Ken Cleveland for timing the event and doing a great job of waving those signs. I want to thank Jan Gottesman for pulling this whole thing together and covering it, so look for her story in this week's item as well on this. And again, this will be on YouTube soon, and it will also be, there'll be a link from the item website, clintonitem.com, so look for that pretty soon. And thank you all again very much.
Thank you.